This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome everybody to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon, joining me as always. Following the 4th of July holiday, he survived. My cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Tell us about the boating and the hoeing you were doing.
The boating and the hoeing, he says. Went out on Cousin Jeff's boat. That was a good time. As far as hoeing goes, I don't know what you're talking about as far as hoeing. You act like I picked up a gaggle of bitches or something.
I thought I saw pictures of you grabbing some ass or something.
Oh, I mean, I always grab the girlfriend's butt.
Yeah,
every picture,
yeah.
like every place we go and every picture we take, there's always one of me grabbing her butt.
Absolutely. Now, on the boat, do you have to make sure you take it easy so you don't end up falling out of the boat? Making sure that you count the white claws and make sure that you don't get into the 10s and 11s and 12s.
So last year, I was so hammered. I ended up falling asleep in a dog bed. We had to leave. Like my cousin had to drive us back to the dock. We had to leave. I went home. I crawled into the dog bed. I basically drank water out of the dog's bowl. And then I had trouble chewing food. I was a complete and utter mess last year. This year, however, I made it to dinner. I was good to go, man. I even built a fire in the backyard after all the boating so she could watch the fireworks that were blowing up down the street. So I was good this year. Last year was a complete mess. Way too many White Claws. Didn't have any White Claws, but there was 3 bottles of booze that was getting passed around. I had a bunch of beers. I was in rough shape last year. It was not good. I woke up the next day and was like, what the hell happened? I feel like I got hit by a truck. It was horrible.
Yeah, man. 4th of July being on a Sunday was perfect. Allowed for Saturday fun, Sunday to relax, Monday being off of work. So I just can't be any more happy that the weekend went the way it was. A little bit too hot in regards to the weather, but it was still good enough to enjoy once it cooled down a little bit. And now we're getting monsoon time, and we're getting a hefty amount of rain, so it's going to be interesting to see how this weather shakes out the rest of the week. But we're getting the rain, we're getting hit with it, but it's Michigan. Wait 5 minutes, it'll turn around. But we can finally talk about some positives in regards to Detroit sports. I feel like the tide is turning with some good draft picks, the Pistons winning the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft lottery, and the Tigers, cuz they are a fun watch. They're winning series after series. They beat Texas, which, obviously we had said in previous editions that the Tigers had a softer schedule. They take 2 out of 3 against Texas, and you look at the team and you're like, damn, managers definitely have an influence. And maybe it's not a coincidence that Turnbull, Matthew Boyd, Michael Fulmer are not around, and they're doing it with a bunch of young cats that are hungry who believe that they can win every game with rookie pitchers. This is amazing, and I think you and I are in the same boat going, we're sitting back, throwing back some White Claws and high noons, and we're going, hell yeah, these Tigers are fun.
By the way, I had my first high noon this past weekend, so they're pretty good. I was surprised. But I think you're right. And here's the thing. This is what I think is so interesting about this Tiger season and why it's so much fun. Remember the first half of the season when they didn't look like much of a team, but they were kind of getting beat, and then we were just hoping that they'd kind of stay into it a little bit. And then all of a sudden things have kind of turned around a little bit. And I know the schedule has lightened up here in July, but I think what you're seeing is what you get when you have an actual competent manager who's able to get a ton out of these guys and put them in position to be successful. On top of all of that, I don't know about you, but going into this season, I had 0 expectations for this team. I was just hoping that we've seen some improvement in some areas. And I think because of the lack of expectations, it's made this season that much more enjoyable, at least to this point, because I had no high hopes of this team competing for a division. I had no high hopes of this team competing in a World Series or even making it to the playoffs. And what I've gotten the last couple weeks is a team that fights, scratches, and claws and is continuously in games. The other night, they got shelled by Texas. Absolutely shelled. But there was a point in the game where they were starting to put guys on base, and they were starting to scratch out some runs, and you're like, okay, cool. They might come back. They seem to have this knack for the comeback, and it's I don't know, man. It's fun to watch. It's enjoyable to see. This team is different than just about any team we've seen in arguably the last 7 or 8 years. And no, I don't think they're great by any shakes of the imagination. But what I'm telling you is they're fun to watch. It's an enjoyable team to view when you watch them on TV. And look, I'm gonna take in my first Tiger game this year, no later than July 31st. I'm taking my dad's down to the ballpark, and I think it's going to be a great time. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a fun atmosphere, and it feels like this team has some life, like it has some juice. That's something that we haven't been able to say in forever. You know, would you not agree that this team seems to kind of, I don't want to say it's like an it factor, because it's definitely not that, but there's some life here, and it's okay to get excited, I think.
Yeah, of course it's okay to get excited, because you look at the schedule and the teams that they're going to face, there's a realistic chance that the Detroit Tigers could have a winning record again in the month of July, which would, if you time it out right, if they go like 15-7 or 16, I believe, 15 wins in this month, you could get to 1 or 2 games over 500 by the time August 1st gets here. And that would be tremendous if you had the opportunity after a 9-24 start, which now looks clearly like it was an outlier. Things were out of order, getting used to A.J. Hinch. But you see what they're able to do with the pitching coach, Federer. Just the ability to throw strikes when needed, throw balls when needed, call for suicide plays when needed. You just kind of see an organization that is in need of a little bit of structure, a little bit of confidence. And Casey Mize said it. He said, we believe that we can win every single game. They're having fun, and it is definitely fun to watch with a team that can really showcase their personality. And really, they're not playing with a whole heck of a lot of pressure, because the expectations were not there for this ball club. And you're seeing the collective kind of growth of certain players that potentially you want to see. Maybe you have a proven leadoff hitter in Akil Baddoo if he continues it. Now, it's all early, and many pundits or critics will say, well, it's a rebuild and Al Avila could ship off a couple of these players down the road. But I'm going to look at it like this. A.J. Hinch has come in, and he turns the page pretty quickly, because there's been some ugly losses in the mix. They just turn the page, and what you're not seeing is these 4 and 5 game swings where over the last couple months where they play bad. And you know, you and I would talk about it all the time, where somebody would be like, hey, what's going on in regards to this losing streak where a couple games would go here and there. So it was very interesting, and I'm very, very impressed with how everything's going.
Here's the thing. If right now, at this exact moment, we're about halfway through the season, maybe a little bit more, who would you give more credit to? Would it be the job that Al Avila's done, putting this roster together and actually hitting on some of these draft picks? Or would it be A.J. Hinch coming in and really, like you said, adding some structure and really seeming to solidify that locker room and really showing some of these young guys the way to go? Because in my estimation, I think a ton more credit deserves to go to A.J. Hinch. And I think going forward, I'm wondering if you're on board with this or not, or if you even feel the same way. I think A.J. Hinch is going to have a big say in what takes place with this organization and what happens with the future of this organization. He's
earned it. He's definitely earned a lot of respect for what you see out there on the diamond. You can kind of see the analytics taking place. You see against Texas, you know, you had 4 outfielders out there. You know, they employ things against players. It looks like he's very detail oriented. He's aware of situations, and it looks like, okay, fundamentally speaking, they are sound. And yeah, they have holes. Obviously, it's a team that has holes at different positions when you're calling up guys like Zach Short to get up here. But you recognize that when a player is struggling,
he came up on Wednesday or Wednesday's game. The guy made a ton of plays, huge plays.
Yeah, and you got to give credit to Avila for scope and for the draft picks that he's made so far in terms of the pitching staff. But unfortunately, you get credit for the good moves, but you also, for Al Avila, have to take the hits when you let go of pieces before and didn't get enough in return. I mean, look, every night, Nick Castellanos is now an all-star, and he's making plays, and every single night he's doing something that's making you go, damn, he'd look good here, and you made a decision based on, potentially the wrong variables. And I would look at it and I would say, you didn't get enough return for some of the players you sold. So that's where the question is like, okay, and it's a tough job, definitely. But AJ Hinch right now, I think most people are like, wow, you're only a handful of games under 500 with this lineup. That is pretty solid, and you get a lot of credit for it by just understanding baseball and understanding the analytics and when to push certain buttons when. Obviously the biggest weakness right now is Jose Urena. And unfortunately, that was a stab. You tried to resurrect his career a little bit, but unfortunately, he's one of those guys that, you kind of know what you got, and every time he goes up there, he is a flamethrower that's going to potentially give up some bombs here and there. But if you can work around it, then this can continue. But now the biggest variable that you want to know about, and I think that everybody wants to know about, is should the Detroit Tigers just play their cards and play them as they have them? Or should they consider maybe making some deals for the long-term future? Because that's a delicate balance of playing the season now versus also planning for the future. I mean, I wouldn't be terribly upset if they let go of Scope, if they get a sense that he wants over 13, 14 million a year. I would not be upset if they traded Matthew Boyd or Michael Fulmer, because those guys are not around and the team's playing pretty well. But, what would happen if someone called for a Jake Rogers? I love, obviously, the public message that AJ Hinch put out there. He said, if you want our players, call, but the asking price is going to be very high. And I think that's the best thing you could start this off with is if you're going to sell high, get something in return. Otherwise, let's just ride it out and rebuild in the offseason.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you have guys on this team and on this roster right now that should be moved. This isn't one of those things, like, you have zero expectations going into the season that they were going to really do anything. And right now they're playing with house money. This is a team that I don't think has any chance in hell of winning a playoff series, much less getting into the playoffs. So don't shoot your rebuild in the foot. I think you should sell. But I think if you're going to sell, you have to get something back in return. It can't be like these moves that Alavila has constructed and Alavila has done in the past where you trade away future all-star players like a Castellanos or JD Martinez. You can't trade away guys like this who are cornerstone pieces for other franchises, and basically what you get is a shoebox full of basically dead balls in jock straps. You can't do that. So if you're going to trade anybody away, you got to get something in return. I am a little bit more towards trading than you are. You sound like you're a little bit more, let's hold some of these pieces closer to the vest. I'm all about trading these guys. Show them, have them show what they've got and make some moves. I think Michael Fulmer's a guy who needs to be on his way out the door. I think a guy like Scope could be on his way out the door, depending on what the price is. I think you've got some pieces here that you could maybe fetch a nice price tag for. But it's going to be one of those things that's going to remain to be seen. I think some of what you could have gotten in return takes a bit of a hit with Spencer Turnbull basically going on the 60-day IR.
Yep,
that's a huge issue because that was a guy who probably could have fetched you something really nice if you were willing to trade him. I don't know if the Tigers were willing to trade him or not, but that was a guy who's basically thrown a no-hitter this year and could have got you something really nice in return.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate, but look, we'll take it if the Tigers are going to turn it around. And look, let's not get our expectations too high. You're still 12 games out as we speak of the wild card, and you have to jump, 6, 7, 8 teams? You're not doing that. So you're not making the postseason unless you go on some ungodly run, in the next couple months. But at the very least, it's not god-awful. You're not the worst team because even I have to admit it, was very wrong. I thought this had the potential of being the worst team ever assembled, but it quickly got turned around, and I think they did it with just good, hard-nosed baseball, playing hard, and the belief that, hey, this can be something that we can accomplish unified as a team. Now, think
about this real quick. If you gave AJ Hinch something credible, you just said it yourself. Like this team was kind of trash. Like going into the season, we had zero expectations, thought nothing of this team. Yet, if you gave him something, you gave him some pieces that were worth a while, and you were like, hey, these are some decent pieces. Imagine what he could do with that. Like he's basically taking chicken shit and making chicken salad out of it. Now imagine if you gave him some steak. Imagine what he could do. It's crazy, right?
Is it time for Al Avila to go to the jewelry store and line it up and get that diamond encrusted trash can? Hell yeah, it is. He's upgraded, not just the basic can, the one that's blinged out where we all know what's coming. I think he's earned that right to kind of get some of the technology upgraded, you know what I mean? A little bit of, why is AJ twitching all of a sudden left to right? Home run Miggy. It's time. Unleash. Let the man get in the kitchen and work his magic. You know what I'm saying? Let's bring the band back together. Correa, Verlander, let's let it happen, bro. I'll take it. If he wants to bang the trash can or twitch when the slider's coming, hey, you do what you gotta do, man, and I'll take it. So it's time, baby. It's time to get some playoff wins. And yeah, I think the excitement level is rising because there's still more pieces to come. And we'll start looking at some of them in the future episodes, like Matt Manning. What's our confidence level? We'll start grading out some of these players, Casey Mize, and things like that. But before we get to the Red Wings, which we will talk about, you said you're taking your dads to the ballpark. What makes for the perfect night at the ballpark? Obviously, outside of the Tigers playing great, you get to the ballpark, and what is on your checklist of things you got to do and to make it a good night?
Really and truly, if my dad can just show up and not be a jerk, that'll be great.
Dad, don't ask me for any money. Don't bug me, and don't question me all day and night. Second, what else?
No, look. It's not even him questioning me. I just need him to show up and want to go. You know how he is, man.
Yeah.
He's different.
Yeah.
So look, I'm assuming you're going to that graduation party this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a story.
Okay.
He called me and he started complaining and bitching about something else that we have going on. And then my stepmom informed him that we had a graduation party that day, and he threw a huge, massive fit on the telephone with me. So if the old man can just show up and want to be there, that's really all I need. That really helps get the evening started right. But generally, you want nice weather. I would prefer it not be 1,000 degrees that day. If we could get some, mid 70s, low 80s, some sun, maybe a little bit overcast, not too bad, and then. Really and truly, man, Comerica's a great ballpark. It really is. So just getting into the stadium and kind of being able to make your way around the stadium is absolutely fantastic. And I think we got some pretty okay seats. I bought 7 tickets, 8 tickets. So the tickets weren't expensive, but it was a heavy price tag to pay for all those seats,
Yeah, of course.
So it really and truly, man, I think weather and my dad's attitude, those are the two things that I need to make for a great day.
What are you talking about? I was just on the phone with him too. I was like, man, I gotta go to this thing. I work all week. I do all these podcasts. I'm trying to write 50 articles. And I'm like, honey, I know I let you have free reign to write whatever you want in the schedule, but I don't want to go. And she's like, Adam's gonna be there. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit better. But I'm like, is there an opportunity here to cash one in? And she's like, no. My wife now has learned to just tell me this. She highlights it in red. Must attend, no excuses, or die. So that's the code that I can't even try to get out of it. And I'm like, okay, because it's not that I don't want to get out. It's the idea of the rest versus the socialization factor. You realize when you work all day in a people business and you just work, you just some days want to just wake up, roll around in your underwear and not shave and drink beer all day and eat Doritos and not have to, put on any clothes or get out of the house. And that's all it is not that, your dad doesn't want to see anybody. It's just that resting and hanging out. And he's got an awesome backyard, man. And he wants to hang out and chill, have some cocktails, watch the Tigers. He doesn't want to hang out with you.
Look, in his case, he just doesn't want to leave the damn house.
Right. Exactly. I'm the same way. But I'm getting better at it. I'm showing up more places, but it's a lot of effort to socialize these days and to put it out there. But you know what? As the Detroit sports world turns around, maybe we'll all be more in a festive mood to get together a lot more often now that we're almost all vaccinated and everyone's a little bit cleaner and not as sick as they were a year and a half ago. But you know what is similar as 2020? The Tampa Bay Lightning are back in the Stanley Cup Finals, and we all get a chance to witness their greatness, even though they had a setback against Montreal. Had a little bit of a turnover there that resulted in some goals for Montreal, who got the victory at home. in overtime, but as we record this, it's about to face off. It's going to be Game 5, and the Tampa Bay Lightning, bro, they are legit. It's not happening. If you're a Canadian fan, you got your win. Revel in it. It's probably done. By the time this comes out, I'm probably going to predict that Tampa Bay is going to hoist the Stanley Cup yet again, because that roster is built in a way that is so impressive. And we can take a little bit of credit because everybody, by and large, gives Steve Yzerman a ton of credit, because by and large that roster was signed, traded for, and drafted and recruited by our general manager, Steve Yzerman. And for me, outside of his coaching decisions and things like that, and his kind of the real turtle-like approach to this rebuild, I'm okay with having
approach.
Dude, let's go. Turn this around. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, I know it's a slow rebuild, but I'm not into the 60 points in the 5-6 year drought of not making the playoffs. You can have a drought where you get into the playoffs and get your ass handed to you. Not like this, but especially knowing that you can't win the lottery. You ain't the Pistons. What are you talking about? You ain't Troy Weaver. You're not going to win the lottery. You're going to be sixth forever. So it's one of those things where I'm okay with it, but when you're used to 25 years in a row in the playoffs and you miss 5-6 years, you're like, damn, what's going on?
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think if you're a Red Wings fan, you should take some solace in what you're seeing. If you're a hockey fan and you're watching these Stanley Cup Finals, you should take some solace in what is going on in Tampa Bay. The majority of that roster that's on the verge of winning back-to-back Stanley Cups, probably will win back-to-back Stanley Cups by the time this comes out. That was constructed by your general manager, the guy who's running the Detroit Red Wings. And look, I know what you're saying, John. I know you want results and you want them now. But I think what you're getting is that this was such a bad situation here as far as the minor league system and the prospects that were here. Do you remember just being told about how there's a couple goalies in the pipeline and you're going to have a couple guys who should be starting for this team? You don't have any goalies in this pipeline. As far as your defensemen go, they're not any good. As far as your forwards go, you have nobody who's elite. And you're seeing that you do need guys who are damn near generational talents to really be able to take over teams and really put them on your back. You've got a guy like a Steven Stamkos who's been there through the long haul with Tampa Bay. That was a guy that, if I remember correctly, I think Steve Yzerman did draft him. I don't remember. But either way, he's a guy who's been there. And at one point, he was supposed to be the second coming of all that is good in hockey. And I think what you're seeing with a team like Montreal, and this might be a bit of a leap here, but you got a guy like a Cole Caufield who's fun to watch. You got a guy like a Suzuki who's fun to watch for Montreal. I think that's their future. I think those two guys right there, those guys are going to be really elite in a couple of seasons. But you need to be able to find talent like that. You've got to be able to put it on your roster. And I think this organization, the pipeline was so dried up. They didn't have anybody like that. So what you've got Steve Yzerman going through this massive rebuild, trying to construct what he constructed in Tampa Bay and trying to build this team the way he built it in Tampa Bay. And the way to do that is to make the right selections in the NFL draft and to be able to go out and sign some young free agents and bring them and put them into your system. At this point, it's just stockpiling guys and putting them in your system so they can all kind of come up right around the same time, and you can basically flip that switch and hit and take off and go. And I think that's what he's trying to do here. But watching what I'm watching with Tampa Bay, as a Detroit Red Wings fan, I feel more confident with what Steve Yzerman is doing because of what I'm seeing take place in Tampa Bay. And I think everybody else should feel the same exact way.
Did he have a mistake? Now, I know it's too soon to evaluate Mo Seider because we haven't seen the defenseman all that much with the Detroit Red Wings, but we are seeing a heavy dose of Cole Caufield, and he's setting up plays, looking like a right winger.
He looks so good, does he not?
Dude, 15th, do you think he got the benefit of being drafted 15th and having that extra motivation? Because the Red Wings at number 6, I believe, could have selected him. Instead, they went defense, arguably one of the best defensemen that was available, but we haven't gotten the return yet, and the Wings have been notoriously slow. This guy's playing in the Stanley Cup Final, and Caufield is getting points, and he looked like you said, now is a cornerstone piece of the Montreal Canadiens, and he's not wearing the winged wheel, which always looks good on any NHL player. So I'm not saying that Mo Seider was a mistake yet. I'm just saying that, man, it stings to see Caufield just handling his business out there on the ice.
If you look at the way Tampa Bay is put together, right, you have Kucherov's the defenseman, right, if I remember correctly. You look at how they are put together, especially on their blue line, right? They've got big-bodied guys who can score and can do things with the puck.
So Kucherov's the right winger. Heck yeah. The goaltending situation for the Lightning is still awesome as well. And then, like you said, the Rigs don't have one, so it's a tough situation when one of the biggest pieces is your goaltender and you don't have it. And you look at it and you say, okay, I like what the Lightning have done in all their combinations with their defensemen and everything they got going on. I mean, look at this number one line. You got Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, and Palat, Ross Colton, Cirelli, and Stamkos. The defensive pairings, let's see, is it Hedman, Ruda, McDonough, Cernak? And there's two more. No, is it Sergachev and David Savard?
No,
those are the top six.
Top six, I don't know who I'm thinking about then. But it's one of those things, though, where I think Steve Yzerman's kind of gone into the season or gone into this rebuild looking to build that back line and then hoping to generate some offense from his defensemen. And I think that's why he might have went with Mo Seider. I think he just valued that position, which is a bit of a mistake. Because when you're drafting that high,
yes, exactly.
What you're looking for is you know what? It's Killorn. That's who I'm thinking about. Killorn is heavy-handed defenseman, I believe, if I remember correctly. But it's one of those things where you are you're when you're that high up, right? You have to Hedman. I'm sorry, Hedman. Well, I'm just going to go through the whole entire roster here.
Exactly.
Give me a second. I'm going to go through the entire roster. No, it's Victor Hedman. He's the defenseman that I'm thinking of. They drafted Hedman, and that really helps. That helped solidify that back line, and by doing that, it allowed those forwards to play much more free. And he's a guy who can generate offense. He's a big dude, 6'6", 230, and he can skate and score. So I think that's what he was trying to duplicate here with Detroit, and that's why he went Mo Seider. Now the thing is, when you're drafting that high in the draft, you're looking more for talent than you are for positional players. It's just like with the NFL, right? When you're drafting number one, number two, you just take the best player available. You know, you don't draft for position, you don't draft for positional needs, especially if you're a team like the Lions. You just need talent. The Red Wings just need talent. And I don't think you go by picking that defenseman. Now look, we could see Mo Seider in a year or two, and we could be talking about something completely different. Mo Seider might be the next Nick Lidstrom. You know what I'm saying? But with a little bit of an angry streak, and he could be much bigger and much stronger. And if that's the case, we're going to be like, holy hell, we got the right guy. You know, it's not Cole Caufield, who's like a water bug out there. You know what I'm saying? He's a little dude. But I think that's what he was trying to duplicate. I think that's what he was trying to do, and that's why he went Mo Seider over a guy like Cole Caufield.
Now, we have to be honest with our audience. In the interest of full disclosure, I went over to Adam's house a month or two ago, and I took some beers over there. And all of a sudden, I walked in, and it was like serene God music was playing. I look over to my left, and I see this huge jersey framed, and it was like, Steve Yzerman is God, Steve Yzerman is God. And I see all the headlines, I see all the pictures of Steve Yzerman out there, and I'm like, oh my God, the love affair in your shrine to Steve Yzerman is epic. So I know that it's going to be hard for you to critique him, but I need you to put on your critique hat and let us know in the future when he's not doing well. I know you have a huge man crush on Steve Yzerman. The shrine is awesome and legendary when you walk in, but he will have to step it up because this is not Tampa Bay. You don't get to live on the past, and you don't get your name on the Stanley Cup for building a team and then leaving. You know, you have to do it now for the Red Wings, otherwise he will end up the likes of Joe Dumars. Maybe not to that degree because there's going to be a lot of people who have shrines to him like you do, but I think that he'll come out with the Red Wings in the playoffs consistently, and he'll have the opportunity to make this Red Wing team. But because it's going to take a long time. I think you and I, you might be in your late 40s, and I might be in my late 50s when it happens, because you remember the best of times started off with the Wings getting into the playoffs, bouncing the first round, getting to the second round, getting to the third round, getting to the Cup final and losing. that probably is going to be the track that the Wings are going to be on. I don't expect them to get to the postseason and then have an epic run. So once they get back, which might take 2 or 3 more years, then you got to start the climb of, okay, we're a young team in the playoffs. Now we got to take our medicine. And I think that's what you have to do is you got to get the goaltender. You got to make more. I mean, look, obviously we have to highlight the fact that he's going to have 1,000 ping pong balls to deal with. He's going to have so many draft picks in the first, second, third, fourth rounds that he's got to hit on a large plethora of them. And I think he will, just by the sheer number of the picks that he's acquired. So I think now is the time to hone in on the moves that he makes because he's going to litter this organization. The picks that he makes now in the 2021 NFL entry draft are going to be the players that we're going to see in the late part of this decade and into the next decade when the Wings are ready to take this thing to the next level. So it's good. I think the hope is still strong. I don't think Cole Caufield is going to be that disastrous of a miss because of the fact that once Mo Seider gets on the ice, look out. He's going to do some things, and he's going to protect the goaltender. He's going to keep that puck out of the zone. He's going to handle his business. Now we got to touch on it, unfortunately. Former Red Wing backup goalie Manny Legace, Novi home, 4th of July, brutal disaster. Columbus's goaltender passes away when a mortar shell. And the reporting on it was weird because the first report said that he fell and hit his head. And then all of a sudden you get the detailed report by the best reporters in town, and you see that the Oakland County coroner did the autopsy, and they figure out, unfortunately, that he died from instantly almost from a mortar shell. 4th of July fireworks disaster, and it goes to show you this time of year that nobody, even if you're a professional athlete, is immune to the dangers of fireworks. So it's just a real sad story all the way around. I was shocked at the way in which it happens.
Yeah, it's really is heartbreaking and it's really sad. I mean, the kid was 24, and he was just kind of coming into his own. He won a huge game in, I think it was the World Juniors against Canada, shut them out. So obviously extra talented, gonna really hurt the Columbus Blue Jackets organization. It's really, really unfortunate. Look, fireworks are one of those things where I don't really like them. I don't care for them. I don't really see what's so awesome about them. The guy we were just talking about who was bitching about having to go to this graduation party that we're going to on the weekend. My father loves fireworks. Like, he's a bit of a pyromaniac. And as a kid, I never really liked them. When I was a child, I had one basically blow up underneath my foot, and I'm lucky I still have my foot attached. So I've never really been a fan of fireworks, but they are so deadly, and you have to be careful around them. And this just sounds like it was one of those weird freak accidents where Manny Legace and crew were lighting off this gigantic mortar, and it just kind of tipped a little bit sideways. And as he was trying to get out of the way and trying to get out of a hot tub, it just exploded in the middle of his chest, and like you said, damn near killed him instantly. It's really, really heartbreaking, and it's really sad. It's unfortunate. I was surprised when the news broke. Like you said, it was weird. Things started to kind of leak out on July 5th, on Monday, and you're like, well, what the hell is this? Like, why was he here in Novi? 2, well, what the hell was going on that he ended up falling and bumping his head? That's how it was reported. And then you find out that he was at his goalie coach's house, who was Manny Legace, and you find out that he was trying to exit a hot tub when this thing went off and basically killed him the moment it struck him. It's really heartbreaking. It's really, really sad.
It's unfortunate for Columbus. Yeah, the entire NHL world extended their support for him. And Matisse Kivlenieks, did I say that correct?
So?
Yeah, so Latvian professional ice hockey goaltender. And he played against the Red Wings. He had, I think, both starts for Columbus this year against the Wings. And even though he wasn't the starting goaltender, it just is unfortunate to go that way because it's unnecessary. You just feel like it's wasted, And if you're Manny Legace, you have to live with that. That's the sick part, too, is when something like that happens. I'm of the opinion, look, the public should have access to fireworks, but you need to hire a professional that has to be on hand if you're going to light off mortars. I mean, that's a tough thing, too, because those things are huge. I mean, you see my videos sometimes online on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Some of them are city. Some of them are from a public house. That's how good they are. That's how available they are, that you can have somebody just take advantage and learn how to set up a system. And I know somebody close to me that has a system it's all set up through wiring, but they light them off personally with lighters. And so you try and stay back and you try an absolute best, but thankfully there's a tree and a fence, that blocks it. But yeah, you get scared to think about, and it harkened back to last year when Jelani Tavai almost had a firework light off his face and he dodged it. He got lucky. So if you're an athlete, if you're somebody, be ultra careful. You're not infallible. And it's just a tragedy that didn't have to happen for the Blue Jackets, for Manny Legace. Everybody here at DSP sends our condolences. It's a tragic, tragic situation for the NHL world, the sports world. And it was a real tough news to hear, and you just hope that people will use it as a lesson to avoid tough things and avoid fireworks if you're not trained. And look, if you're going to buy fireworks, they're not cheap. Spend the extra money and have somebody else. Don't be the one standing there lighting it, because if you can get some professional counsel on it, do that and have as much experience and far away from people as humanly possible. Because if someone's going to get hit with a mortar, their fate is going to be determined very, very quickly, and it's not going to be a good thing.
All right, use caution and make sure everybody is standing back behind.
Far away. Yes, far away. You want to end up, and definitely don't do anything where it would put you in jeopardy by being under the influence or doing anything that would end up being dangerous. All right, cuz this was a good broadcast, good times. I know we're in early July. We're getting closer, just a couple weeks away from the start of the Detroit Lions training camp. Stay tuned to SIO Lions, Detroit Sports Podcast, Doc and Jock. Look, I think you guys can tell based on our chemistry, Adam and I don't treat each other like Maria Taylor and Rachel Nichols. We aren't trying to have those kind of private conversations. We're friendly. We appreciate each other up through and through. We bust each other's balls. And in front of the camera, live on a podcast, or behind the scenes, I ain't out for Adam and Adam ain't out for me. And it just goes to show you that in the big time world of sports, even the ladies can get cutthroat. And I'm here to see it, and I love it. Whatever's going on, keep airing it. I'm digesting it. I'm loving it. All that drama is great for entertainment, and my entertainment is definitely been high the last couple of weeks. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Anywhere you listen and obtain your favorite podcast, type in Detroit Sports Podcast, 3 words, and you hit the subscribe button. Our daily content will find you, and you'll be in the mix with everything going on in the world of Detroit sports. Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Make sure you pay attention to his hijinks and hilarity on the Practice Squad with Brendan Riley. A great podcast. I love it. And advice to Little B, man, I never thought I'd listen to your sex life, but let's do that once a year, okay? We don't want to hear that any more than that. Peace, cuz.